My sister-in-law rented out my private lake cabin on Airbnb without my knowledge, collected $47,000 in summer bookings, and genuinely believed she could keep the money because she called it helping with family expenses. My phone started buzzing at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in June. Not the usual morning buzz of emails and work notifications. This was different. This sounded like my phone was having a nervous breakdown. Ding, 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 ding. 43 notifications in rapid succession. I grabbed my phone and scrolled. Airbnb messages. Dozens of them. Hi, looking forward to our stay June 15th to 22nd. What time is check-in? Does the cabin have Wi-Fi? My kids are asking. Can you confirm the hot tub works? That's why we booked. First time renting an Airbnb property. This looks amazing. See you in 2 weeks. I froze. Completely froze. My cabin. My private lake cabin. The one I'd purchased 8 years earlier with money saved from my salary as a marketing director in Seattle. My sanctuary. My escape. The cabin I had intentionally kept off the market because I didn't want to deal with tourists, strangers, or rental logistics. My cabin was listed on Airbnb. And it had bookings for the entire summer. With shaking hands, I opened the listing. 73 photos. Professional, filtered, styled photos. Shots of the interior. The deck overlooking the water. My kitchen. The hot tub I'd installed myself 2 summers ago. The listing title. Gorgeous lakefront cabin. Pristine waterfront property. Perfect for family getaways. $400 per night. For $100 a night. And I had nothing to do with it. The listing description read. Welcome to paradise. This stunning cabin is managed by a local property manager who knows the area intimately. We take pride in offering authentic, personalized hospitality to our guests. A local property manager. The only other person who had keys to my cabin was my sister-in-law, Margaret, my brother's wife. The same woman who'd asked me 3 weeks earlier if she could stay there for a weekend to recharge. I had said yes. I had not said yes to her renting it out. I called her immediately. She answered on the 3rd ring. Hey sis. What's up? Her voice was cheerful, too cheerful. The cheerfulness of someone who knows they've done something wrong but hasn't been confronted yet. Margaret, I said tightly, can you explain why my cabin is listed on Airbnb? Silence. Just for a second. Enough for her to realize the jig was up. Oh. You got the notifications, she said, sounding relieved, like this was a cute misunderstanding we could laugh about. Listen, I know this looks crazy, but I was just trying to help. I know money's been tight for you since the divorce, and I thought. My money has not been tight, I said calmly. I make a 6-figure salary. I have a 401k. I have savings. And far more importantly, I have a property that I did not authorize you to rent. Come on, Victoria. It's not that big a deal. I'm just renting it out for the summer. I was going to tell you eventually. And I'm covering all the expenses. Cleaning, linens, utilities. Everything. I was just going to keep the rental income to help offset costs. You were going to keep the rental income, I repeated, from my property that I own that I never authorized you to list. Well, you're not using it, she said. It sits empty most of the year. That's my choice, I snapped. I could feel the rage building like a thunderstorm. Margaret, you cannot list someone else's property on Airbnb without permission. That's not helping with expenses. That's theft. It's not theft if I'm managing it properly and not pocketing the money. I'm literally running it like a business. What's the big deal? The big deal was this. I had spent 8 years building a sanctuary. And she had violated my trust and my property rights in a single spectacular act of entitlement. Remove the listing, I said. Today. Or I'm calling the police. Oh, come on. Don't be dramatic. Let me just finish out the summer bookings. These people have already paid. I can't cancel on them. That's not my problem, I said. That's your problem. One you created when you committed property fraud. Remove the listing. I hung up before she could respond. Then I called my lawyer. Margaret did not remove the listing. Instead, she changed the locks. I discovered this when I drove up to the cabin on Friday to pick up some belongings and found my key no longer worked. I stood there rattling a useless key in a brand new lock while strangers, paying guests, moved around inside my cabin. So I called the sheriff. The Whatcom County Sheriff's Department sent Officer Daniel Torres, a man in his 50s with the exhausted expression of someone who had witnessed every possible flavor of family stupidity. So, he said slowly, you're telling me your sister-in-law changed the locks on your property? Officer Torres looked up from the deed I'd brought. So you're telling me your sister-in-law changed the locks on your property? Yes, I said. After I told her to remove the Airbnb listing, she changed the locks instead. And you have the property deed proving ownership? I'm on the deed. I'm the only owner listed. Officer Torres looked at the cabin, then at me, then at the locked door. Let me call my supervisor. What she's done here, unauthorized rental of someone else's property, changing locks on property she doesn't own, refusing access to the legitimate owner, these are potential felonies. 20 minutes later, we were standing outside the cabin. Inside, a family was enjoying their vacation. A family that had no idea they were participating in a crime. Officer Torres knocked. A man in his 50s opened the door, wearing the expression of someone who'd paid good money for a peaceful weekend and was about to learn that peaceful wouldn't be happening. I'm going to need you to vacate this property, Officer Torres said, showing his badge. You're staying in a property that's been rented to you fraudulently. The legal owner did not authorize this rental. What? The man said, turning to me. She's the owner? I'm the owner, I confirmed. This property was listed without my permission. Locks were changed without my permission. You need to leave. The family was gone within an hour, angry, demanding refunds, threatening to sue Airbnb and Margaret for what they correctly described as a fraudulent rental scheme. I didn't feel bad. A locksmith arrived and restored my locks. I had keys to my own property again. Then Officer Torres and I went to find Margaret. Margaret was at my brother's house. David opened the door, confusion shifting to horror as he realized why we were there. Margaret, I need you to come outside, Officer Torres said calmly. Margaret stepped into view. Her face went pale. What is this? You're not under arrest, Officer Torres said. But I need to inform you that changing locks on property you don't own is a felony. Renting property without the owner's permission is felony property fraud. And evicting the legitimate owner from their own property is, well, that's several felonies. I was just trying to help, Margaret said, tears forming. Victoria doesn't use the cabin. I was trying to generate income to help with family expenses. By committing fraud? I asked. By stealing my property's rental income? By changing my locks? I was planning to tell you, she said. I was planning to give you a cut. A cut of what? My own property's income? That's not generous, Margaret. That's criminal. Officer Torres explained her options. She could resolve this with me civilly, or she could face criminal charges. I could pursue small claims, or I could pursue criminal court. David looked at me, guilt creeping into his features. How much money are we talking about? He asked quietly. The listing shows 73 booked nights through September, I said. At $400 a night, that's approximately $29,200. He has it. She's collected it. I'll pay you back, Margaret blurted out. Every penny. Please don't press charges. And the changed locks? Officer Torres asked. And the unauthorized rental? I made a mistake, Margaret whispered. You made several felonies, Officer Torres corrected. Multiple felonies. Now the question is whether the property owner wants to pursue this criminally or civilly. I looked at Margaret, at my brother, at the person who had violated my sanctuary and assumed there'd be no consequences. I want restitution, I said. Full amount, $29,200. Plus the cost of lock replacement. Plus my lawyer fees. Plus $15,000 for emotional distress. Total, $44,200. Margaret's voice cracked. $44,000? I don't have that kind of money. Then you should have thought about that before committing fraud, I said. Officer Torres explained she had two choices. Pay me directly or face criminal charges that could lead to jail time. She chose to pay. He borrowed money from my brother. She wrote me a check the following Monday. But paying didn't erase the crimes. The Whatcom County Sheriff's Department filed a report. The prosecutor reviewed it. Margaret was charged with 3 counts of felony property fraud, 1 count of larceny. 1 count of illegal lock changing on property she didn't own. She accepted a plea deal. 1 year probation. 200 hours of community service. $44,200 restitution. Permanent prohibition from managing or profiting from property she didn't own. My relationship with David survived, but not unchanged. He hadn't stopped her. He hadn't questioned her. Something in our trust cracked that day. I closed the Airbnb account. I wiped every trace of the listing. I hired contractors to redo the cabin's interior. New locks, new security system, new cameras. I wasn't taking any more chances. I also filed a civil suit against Margaret for emotional distress and violation of property rights. The court awarded me another $25,000. Margaret paid by order of the court. A year later, I ran into her at a grocery store in Seattle. She looked smaller, diminished by the weight of her own choices. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm truly sorry." "I know you are," I said. "But being sorry doesn't undo what happened." I left the store and returned to my sanctuary, my lake cabin, untouched, unrented, protected. What I learned was simple. Your property is your sanctuary. Your boundaries protect you. And people who violate those boundaries must face real consequences. Not excuses, not apologies. I don't regret pressing charges. I don't regret pursuing restitution. I don't regret showing Margaret and my brother that loyalty doesn't mean tolerating felony-level entitlement. The cabin sits quietly now, used only when I choose. Never rented. Never compromised. Entirely mine. And protected finally by both law and lesson. Margaret learned that lesson the hard way. And I got my sanctuary back.